Hello and welcome to Tech 24 with me, Anelise Borges. Coming up, gone. In the first ever open online sale, Google Glass gets wiped off the virtual shelf. A glimpse of the future, but at what cost? We'll take a closer look at Google's strategy in this edition. And the two biggest Android releases of the year, we put the HTC One M8 and the Galaxy S5 to the test. Plus, scientists find an Earth twin, or perhaps a cousin. It's a bit bigger and somewhat colder, but a planet 500 light years away is otherwise the closest match of our homeworld discovered so far. For the first time ever, Google set up an online sale of its computer-enabled eyeglass to the general public. It was a short-lived joy, though, for geeks all around the world who were hoping to finally get their hands on one. The cotton version sold out in a matter of hours, and the shop was closed the next day. But despite all the hype surrounding glass, many have a rather negative view of it.
A product for the future or an invasion of privacy? Even before its release, Google Glass has divided opinion. For a limited time only, the US public can now decide for themselves.
Right now, Google Glass is this really esoteric device that some people have seen, they've heard about it, they haven't had a chance to touch it, they're starting to misunderstand it. I think that's Google's big concern, so they're going to flood the market a little bit.
Google is hoping to gauge customer interest to further hone the device, which for now is still limited in terms of applications. Critics are questioning just how well the price tag of $1,500 per pair will go down in the mainstream market. And there are widespread privacy concerns. A watchdog report on Tuesday laid out the potential threats, emphasizing that anyone could be secretly recorded. Some glass wearers say they have already been attacked in public by people opposed to the product.
This is not just a computer. This is spyware. When you wear these devices, you think you're wearing it, but really Glass is wearing you. Google is wearing you. You're becoming a set of eyes for Google.
Others are seeing the practical potential of the technology. At this hospital in Beirut, Lebanon, Dr. Hassan Abu Sitta is carrying out an operation to repair a young boy's cleft lip. Using Google Glass, he's being advised by a surgeon in New York, 9,000 kilometers away.
It's essential in educating surgeons, and it's essential in supporting those in remote regions. If there's a surgeon working in another country who is difficult to get to, I can support him through the software.
Google is expected to lower the price to $600 by 2016. By then, it's thought the product will be available to the mainstream and selling millions of units.
And I am pleased to be joined by France 24's newest tech expert, Dhananjay Kadekar. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Anelise.
It was a very interesting week for Google Glass. One day only sale, a very successful one. But on the other hand, a Google Glass user was attacked.
Yeah, it was an eventful week for Google, wasn't it? I mean, of course, it was not a surprise that all the Google Glasses which were on sale on Tuesday, they were sold off within no time. I think, but it will be very early to say that it's already a hit because, you know, there were three factors surrounding this sale. One was hype, second was exclusivity, and third was curiosity. So maybe people bought these Google Glasses keeping in mind all these three factors. And the reason why I'm saying that it may not be a hit because it has a big barrier to cross. And that barrier is not technological, but social. As we have seen in the past, people have been really concerned about the privacy issues that Google Glass brings with it. At the beginning of this year, you had a woman in a bar in San Francisco getting attacked because she was filming a video using Google Glass. And of course, there was the attack this week. But of course, this attack was not against Google Glass per se. It happened after a protest by local residents in San Francisco against the changing dynamics of the city caused by the influx of the tech staffers in the Silicon Valley.
Now, there was also the very impressive story of the Lebanese doctor performing surgery with Google Glass. Isn't it worrisome, though, that what people are getting is really just a prototype, and yet they're using it to perform important tasks like surgery, for example?
I don't see any problem in using prototypes because prototypes themselves, they undergo quite a lot of rigorous tests. And the fact that Google chose to put these prototypes in the hands of people means that they're quite reliable.
This week also saw Google's acquisition of Titan Aerospace. Tell us more about why Google is venturing into drones.
The acquisition of Titan Aerospace was a practical business decision, you could say that, because as you know, Google is already involved in a project which would result in spreading the reach of internet to remote parts of the world. It's not because Google has some altruistic purpose behind this project. They are just interested in making more and more people get access to internet, because the more people access internet, the better it is for Google, the more business it brings to Google. So they are doing it with high altitude balloons, and now with the acquisition of Titan Aerospace, they will now have these solar powered drones which will bolster this endeavor of theirs. And these are no ordinary drones. These are powered by sun, as I mentioned, and they can fly for years. Like it's mentioned that this particular drone, it can fly for 5 years without having a need to refuel or land. So yeah, I think it's a very important decision taken by Google. And the other aspect of this acquisition is the fact that they can be used for imagery, which is one of Google's core businesses. Maps, Google Earth, I think it will benefit from the fleet of drones which will now fly over our skies. And the other, which excites me a lot, the other aspect of this acquisition is the fact that now we are going to see a war between Facebook and Google in the skies. Because if you remember, Facebook has already acquired a drone company, a British drone company, and their objective is similar to Google's. They want to spread the reach of internet as far, as wide as possible to as many people as possible, because they follow the same business model as Google. So yeah, it will be interesting to see Facebook and Google square it up in high altitudes. And I don't know, but who would emerge as the top gun? It remains to be seen, but it's going to be a very tough fight.
All right, whoever emerges to be the top gun, we'll keep an eye on that. Thanks for that.
We can call him the Tom Cruise of internet.
All right, Tom Cruise, that's very interesting. Thanks for that, Dan. And it's time to move on now. Up next, Test 24. This week's Test 24 is a battle of giants. HTC One M8 versus the Samsung Galaxy S5, the two biggest Android releases of the year. Then what is your overall impression of the two phones?
One word, impressive. Both the devices are really impressive. They pack a lot of punch in terms of performance, in terms of applications, and both of them are very good in terms of screen display, in terms of camera. I think overall they are really good products. But there are some unique features that each of the phone brings to itself. S5 has brought this really interesting application that measures your pulse rate, that measures your heart rate. So what you do is you put your forefinger on the back, and it measures your pulse rate. Now HTC, big thing about HTC is, of course, it's built, as I said before, and it has these dual speakers which lend greater or more volume compared to more sound compared to S5. So maybe I'll just play a song perhaps to.
Oh yeah, indeed, a very good sound and image quality, I would say. Great choice of music, by the way, Dan. And I mean, finally, who's the winner of this battle?
Cost-wise, they're almost similar in the range of 650 euros. But one of the key features that customers look forward to in smartphones these days is the camera. And in this segment, I think S5 is better than HTC One M8. I mean, the image quality just looks better in terms of colors. Of course, it has a bigger back camera, 16 megapixel. But if you are interested in selfies, which has become a fad these days, I think you should opt for the HTC One M8 because its front camera it has more features, and it is bigger than the front camera of the S5. So yeah, I mean, both phones have their unique features, and both phones they are really close in competition. But in the end, if you consider all parameters, I think S5 is the winner in this battle.
All right, well, thanks for that, Dan. Now, in other news, NASA astronomers say they have discovered a rocky world similar in size and temperature to Earth. The distant star is the strongest candidate yet for a habitable world outside the solar system.
It's 500 light years away, circling a red dwarf star in a constellation called Cygnus. Now it's been named Kepler 168f, and it's the most Earth-like planet ever found in space.
Kepler-186f is the first validated Earth-sized planet in the habitable zone of its star. It's the outermost of 5 planets to orbit a star that is smaller and cooler than the Sun. This planet orbits its star every 130 days, and so this places it in the habitable zone, where it's in a region where it could have liquid water on its surface.
2 engine start, 1-0, and liftoff of the Delta II.
It was found by NASA's orbiting Kepler telescope, which has discovered 961 planets since it launched in 2009, but only a few dozen are at a temperature that could sustain life. Scientists think it basks in an orange glow from its small sun and has temperatures just above freezing.
This planet, Kepler-186f, orbits a star that's cooler and dimmer than the Sun. So while we may have found a planet that's the same size as Earth and receives a similar amount of energy to what Earth receives, it orbits a very different star. So perhaps instead of an Earth twin, we've discovered an Earth cousin.
But Kepler-186f is so far away, not even NASA's next generation of telescope, due to launch in 2018, will be able to study it in detail. So the distant planet may remain forever a mystery.
And that's all we have time for. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Tech24. Don't forget, you can get in touch with us on Facebook or on Twitter using the hashtag Tech24. And we leave you today with images of Inform, a dynamic shape display that can render 3D content physically so that users can interact with digital information in the physical world. Inform was developed at the MIT Media Lab and is part of a larger intent to give physical form to digital information. Thanks for watching and stay with us here on France 24.